And Peter Wells is Director of the Centre for Automotive Industry Research at Cardiff University. Peter, great to have you on the show. So let's start with the Beijing Auto Show. I'm pretty sure that you're watching that. And as a professional industry observer, I would say, what are your takeaways?
Yeah, it's been a really interesting show. I think a few things. First, a really strong show of confidence from the Chinese automotive industry. So many new products, so much new technology, so many really interesting features in the cars that they're really pushing the industry to a higher level. So that was really interesting. Mm-hmm. Second thing was, of course, yes, the European manufacturers have also made a very strong statement there about staying in that market and staying competitive. And I think the third thing I got from all of that was, despite the lack of growth in the Chinese market, it remains really the most important competitive arena and market opportunity for the world automotive industry.
Well, Peter, as I said, it is a rather competitive market in China, but still a lot of companies are bringing their latest models to China. As we heard from the interview just now, Volkswagen will unveil some of its latest models in China this year. So what does it say about the significance or continued significance of the Chinese market, even though do you think the market is saturated?
Well, I think there are beginning to be signs of saturation for sure. And of course, in the recent past, some manufacturers have had to scale back some of their ambitions for the Chinese market. But what I also see is a shift in the structure of the market. I think there's a definitive move to try and shift up market in terms of the quality and value of the products. There is a risk for all players in this market if consumers aren't prepared to move with the manufacturers into those more luxurious, more feature-filled cars. Then there's going to be a real recalibration, a reset, and that will be quite difficult for several of the players here.
And I also want to talk about China and the European Union. We know that they do have some tensions over the Chinese-made EVs. So how do you assess the current auto relations between China and the European Union?
Well, it's really interesting listening to the CEO at Volkswagen, because what he described there is something that's going on across the industry, which is shared destiny. You can no longer separate out fully the interests of, say, the Chinese automotive against the interests of the European automotive. In other words, we see a lot of shared investment, a lot of cooperation, and a lot of basically working together in order to try and navigate what is an increasingly complicated market environment. And I expect that to continue. Yes, those tensions are in there. There are all sorts of things to be resolved. But it's no longer a case of one bloc against another bloc. There are many different and divergent interests at play.
Yeah, thank you very much, Peter. Peter Wells from Cardiff University. Thank you very much for your insight.